Well, Denmark and Finland have now issued travel warnings for the United States.
So it's a big number. We estimate that this represents about $1.5 billion.
Yeah, I would say so. I tend to boycott them anyway.
Once a symbol of freedom and prosperity, the United States was the dream destination for millions of travelers around the world. In 2019, the country welcomed nearly 80 million international visitors, a figure any economy would envy. But that golden era is slowly becoming a thing of the past. In 2024, the number of visitors to the US dropped to just over 72 million, and 2025 isn't looking any better. In March alone, international arrivals fell by more than 11% compared to the same period last year. This isn't a coincidence. It reflects a shift in how the world perceives America. The country is facing a quiet wave of boycotts. In this video, we'll reveal 7 countries that are steadily pulling back from traveling to the US. The third name will leave you in disbelief. 7. Japan. US loses. Nearly 1/5 of Japanese business travelers in just 1 month, eh? There was a time when Japanese tourists came to the US as casually as going to the market. Every summer, crowds of visitors could be seen lining up at Apple stores in New York, snapping photos under the Hollywood sign, or packing outlet malls around Los Angeles. The US was once a top choice, not just for travel, but also for studying, working, and expanding business networks. But this year, something has changed. Statistics from April 2025 show that the number of Japanese tourists to the US rose only slightly by 5% year over year. Meanwhile, the number of Japanese business travelers dropped by a striking 19%, and students participating in exchange programs fell by 14%. There appears to be surface-level growth, but underneath is a pattern of selective withdrawal. Miss Akiho Tanaka, a media professional living in Tokyo, had visited the US 4 times in the 3 years before the pandemic. This month, she chose France instead. "I like America, but lately I've heard too many unpleasant stories at the airport," she said. A friend of mine, a photographer, was interrogated for over an hour at immigration just for carrying a lot of equipment. Doesn't feel welcoming anymore. That feeling isn't unique. Major Japanese media outlets like NHK, Mainichi, and Asahi have reported on cases of Japanese citizens being detained, subjected to extensive checks, or even denied entry. Airlines are adjusting their strategies too. ANA and Japan Airlines have reduced flights to the US West Coast and increased routes to Southeast Asia and Europe. The Japanese Ministry of Foreign Affairs quietly raised its travel advisory for the US, citing social instability and recommending that citizens minimize personal information when entering the country. The Japanese haven't declared a boycott of America, but they're simply not coming anymore, at least not like they used to. For them, America hasn't disappeared from the travel map. It just isn't the first choice anymore. And if Japan, a typically quiet ally, has surprised you with this shift, then what's happening in Denmark, a country known for neutrality and rationality, might shock you even more. 6. Denmark disillusioned. When citizens say no to traveling to the US, "I absolutely refuse to go to the US anymore. I love my country and cannot accept how they treat Greenland," a Copenhagen resident shared. "They treat Greenland like a commodity to be bought and sold, showing no respect for our culture or autonomy." A student in Aarhus echoed the sentiment. "America used to be my dream destination. Not anymore. I'm choosing Canada or the Netherlands for studying and traveling, places where I feel safer and more welcomed." It's not just individual voices. The Danish public is making its stance clear. Scandals over US surveillance of Greenland's independence movements have shaken public trust in the US as a reliable partner. As a result, tourism from Denmark to the US has plunged. March saw a 34% drop, and although April rebounded slightly with a 10% increase, the overall trend remains downward. Business travel fell 29%, while students are shifting toward European countries like Canada and the Netherlands. A Don't Buy American campaign has quickly gained traction on Danish social media, urging consumers to support domestic products or those from European partners instead of American goods. Many have turned to brands like Bang & Olufsen, Denmark's famed audio company, or chosen fashion and tech products from the Netherlands and Germany, replacing once popular American brands. At the same time, popular travel blogs are highlighting alternative destinations like Canada, the Netherlands, and other Nordic countries, encouraging travelers to explore new lands with no ties to the US. America is no longer the dream it once was, remarked a prominent Danish travel blogger. It's become a complicated acquaintance, full of contradictions and requiring serious thought before visiting. This wave of discontent isn't stopping at Denmark. It's sparking a domino effect, prompting other countries to reevaluate their travel ties with the United States. 5. Germany. 78% of citizens hold a negative view of the US. In March this year, the number of tourists traveling from Germany to the US dropped by 28% compared to the same period last year. And although April saw a recovery with a 23% increase, this rebound was not enough to offset the sharp decline in leisure travel, a segment that traditionally makes up the bulk of German visitors to the US, especially to destinations like California. The main reason lies in tense encounters at US airports, where many German passengers have experienced uncomfortable security and immigration procedures. I was once detained for hours and interrogated like a criminal, even though I had a valid visa, said Marcus, a traveler from Berlin. It felt like I wasn't respected. That's enough to make me not want to return to the US. Germany's Foreign Office has officially issued warnings about cases where travelers have been denied entry despite having valid visas. This has raised concerns within the travel community, leading many to consider safer and friendlier destinations. A recent survey revealed that 78% of Germans now hold a negative view of the United States, with key concerns revolving around respect, safety, and personal dignity. A social media user in Munich commented, "I'm not afraid to visit the US, but if I'm going to be treated like that, I'd rather go somewhere else." Safety and respect matter most when traveling. In response to the situation, Lufthansa has reduced flights to California while increasing routes to South America and Scandinavia, destinations now attracting more German tourists. This move reflects a shift in travel preferences, as Germans seek alternatives to avoid the potential hassle of visiting the US. From the numbers to the first-hand accounts, it's clear that the US is gradually losing its standing as a top destination in the eyes of German travelers. Immigration tensions and a perceived lack of respect have become major barriers that are making Germans increasingly hesitant to visit. 4. Australia. Travel advisories when visiting the US. For many years, the United States has been a dream destination for Australians, whether for leisure holidays or business trips. However, recent data shows a clear shift in the travel patterns of Australians heading to the US. In April, the number of Australian tourists traveling to the US rose by only 1% compared to the same period last year, essentially flatlining after years of steady growth. Meanwhile, leisure travel dropped by 16% and business travel declined by 7%. These are clear signals of growing hesitation in choosing the US as a destination. The main concerns center on personal safety and privacy, especially within the LGBTQIA+ community. The Australian government has updated its travel advisories to the US 3 times in April alone, emphasizing potential risks travelers may face, particularly at border entry points. Some Australians have reported being asked to unlock their personal phones upon arrival in the US, raising fears over privacy rights. "I deleted a bunch of data from my phone just to avoid trouble," a young traveler shared. Not everyone wants to be searched that thoroughly when they're just coming for a vacation. From these real experiences, Australians are beginning to see that America is no longer just a simple dream destination. Instead, they're weighing personal values and safety more carefully when deciding where to go. And that's still not the whole picture. Many more countries are quietly turning away from the United States, and the trend is only growing. 3. Sweden. Not a boycott, but no longer eager to visit the US. "The last time I visited the US was a few years ago," said Anna, 28, a media professional in Stockholm. "Now, it's not just the physical distance, it's the values and political perspectives that make me question going there." Anna's sentiment reflects a clear trend among Swedish travelers. In March, the number of visitors from Sweden to the US dropped by nearly 17%, though April saw a 21.6% rebound. However, business travel fell sharply by 22%, and many young Swedish students are now choosing Germany and Canada as alternative destinations. According to a YouGov survey, 63% of Swedes now hold a negative view of the United States. Deep disagreements over racial justice, LGBTQIA+ rights, and climate policy are seen as the main reasons for the significant drop in favorability. This shift is not only visible in the statistics, but also in how Swedish companies are adjusting their plans. Many are postponing business trips to the US, what use us opting instead for online meetings or choosing safer destinations. We want to maintain work efficiency while upholding our ethical values, said a spokesperson from a Stockholm-based tech company. At the same time, Swedish travel bloggers are influencing this trend by recommending destinations with shared values, such as Canada and Norway. They describe this as a moral pause, emphasizing that Swedes are not boycotting the US outright, but are entering a period of reconsideration. 2. The French are turning their backs on the US. In the first 2 months of this year, the number of French tourists to the US saw steep declines, down 8% in March and another 12.2% in April. It's not just personal travel. Business trips from France to the US also dropped by 13.6%, signaling a significant shift in attitudes and behavior toward a country once seen as a symbol of freedom and opportunity. Marie, a student in Paris, said bluntly, "I always avoid carrying anything that suggests I support America when I travel. Some of my friends even wear Canadian flags so they won't be mistaken or scrutinized just for where they come from." Her story is one of many that reflect the growing caution and even anxiety that French people feel when it comes to the US. The deeper cause lies in a wave of criticism of US tax and foreign policy, which has been extensively covered in the French media. Disputes over import tariffs, aggressive diplomatic decisions, and clashing political ideologies have led 73% of French respondents in a recent survey to say they no longer see the US as a reliable ally. This loss of trust is no longer confined to politics. It's spilling over into daily life, especially travel. French travelers are now prioritizing destinations like Spain, Greece, and Quebec, places they view as safer and more aligned with their cultural values. While affection for the American people may still exist, the numbers and real-world reactions reveal a deepening erosion of trust in U.S. leadership. This is more than a shift in travel habits. It represents a crisis of confidence that could have long-term consequences for relations between the two nations. 1. Canada, we're no longer America's neighbor. The U.S. is no longer the neighbor I once knew, said David, a Toronto resident. I sold my vacation home in Florida because I no longer felt safe or welcome. David's story is emblematic of the growing frustration and fracture spreading across Canadian society regarding the United States. Recent data shows air travel from Canada to the US has dropped nearly 20%, while land travel, traditionally the most popular and accessible route, has declined by over 35%. This is the steepest decline among all countries seeing decreased travel to the US. The root cause lies in escalating political tensions, particularly over trade tariffs and controversial statements by President Trump. One remark that went viral on social media, "Canada is the 51st state," sparked widespread backlash among Canadians and fueled boycott movements like Don't Buy American campaigns on various platforms. In response, Air Canada has had to cut multiple flights to the US, while boosting routes to Latin American countries in an effort to diversify travel options for Canadian customers. This reaction goes beyond travel. Many Canadians are also withdrawing from the once booming Florida real estate market, selling off properties they no longer feel comfortable owning. The message from Canadians to the US is now crystal clear. America is no longer a friendly neighbor, but a divided and unstable house. The numbers don't just reflect a tourism trend. They're a warning bell signaling that one of the world's closest cross-border relationships is now undergoing its most serious test yet. Across the globe, the decline in tourism to the US does not merely reflect a change in travel habits. It reveals deep-rooted disagreements over politics, social values, and trust. From Canada, with a nearly 35% drop in land travel, to Denmark and France, where fierce social and media backlash is emerging, people are rethinking their relationship with the so-called American dream. This is not just a story about whether to go or not. It is a comprehensive reassessment of America's position on the global map, seen through the lens of international partners and travelers. The challenge for the U.S. is not only about bringing tourists back, but also about rebuilding trust and restoring its standing in an increasingly complex and multifaceted world. If you found this video interesting, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel so you won't miss out on upcoming content. Share your thoughts in the comments section below. Thank you for watching. And remember, what we share in this video is for reference and analysis from multiple perspectives. We encourage you to consult additional sources to gain a more complete and objective view.